Hey there! Welcome to Queer Kid Stuff. I'm Lindsay, and today we're talking about the Women's March.
Hello, and welcome to Skeptic Llama's channel. I'm the Skeptic Fox, and today we're talking about a woman with rather delusional beliefs who's talking about the Women's March.
Different in many ways. Doesn't matter if you're a boy, girl, or somewhere in between. We all are part of
Fucked up ideologies.
gaming's
Faggots.
Queer Kid Stuff. You are
God, I love that song.
On Friday, January 20th, 2017, Donald Trump was officially inaugurated as President of the United States.
And since Trump's inauguration, he's done quite a lot of things. Some stuff I'm not really in favour of, such as the reinstatement of the New Mexico policy. Other stuff I'm very much in favour of, such as the scrapping of the TPP. However, all the progressives seem to want to talk about is the fact that the LGBTQ isn't a section on the government website.
That was a pretty difficult day for a lot of people. If you haven't watched our video on the 2016 election yet, you can check that out by clicking on the card that just popped up right there.
Oh, I also did a video on this. I don't know how to do the cards though. I'm sure Llama will sort it out for me.
But I want to talk about something else that happened over the weekend that was actually really cool.
Oh, finally, someone's going to talk about the scrapping of the TPP.
That was the Women's March.
Oh, that seamlessly pointless exercise. Well, I'm sure you've got something smart to say about it. You always have something smart to say.
The Women's March was a peaceful protest, which is a form of activism. We learned a little bit about activism when I read A is for Activist by Santo Nogueira for you. We will probably talk a little bit more about activism in the future.
Considering within the last year, a baby that got taken to a Black Lives Matter protest died as a result, and a toddler who went to an anti-fascista march the day before the Women's March got pepper sprayed in the eyes, maybe trying to encourage toddlers to get involved in activism isn't the safest move. I mean, for fuck's sake, you're meant to be an adult. Take some responsibility and actually think about what you're trying to encourage these kids to get involved in.
But to put it simply, activism is about expressing how you want something to change. This channel is actually a form of activism because I wanted to change how kids like you learn about LGBTQ+ topics.
Hang on, was that a sugar-coated confession to trying to indoctrinate these children? I think she did just confess.
The Women's March was a form of activism where a ton of people agreed to go outside to planned locations with clever signs on Saturday, January 21st to walk together expressing the idea that women deserve equal rights.
Oh, so I take it you marched on places such as the Embassy of Saudi Arabia, or Pakistan, or the Democratic Republic of Congo. You know, places where women don't actually have equal rights.
You might recognize that idea from when we talked about feminism.
Which isn't synonymous with equal rights. In actual fact, feminism tends to preach one thing, but act in a completely different manner.
The Women's March was a huge feminist event. It ended up being the biggest protest in American history.
Take note, as well as feminism not actually being synonymous with equal rights, it's also not synonymous with women. I know plenty of women who have tried to distance themselves as far as possible from this Women's March.
The main march was in the capital, Washington, D.C.
Oh, so it wasn't actually directed at any place where you could argue feminism is actually needed. The only thing the Women's March accomplished was to serve as an outlet for the self-entitlement of people who aren't happy because the democratic process didn't go the way they wanted it to.
And they estimated there were close to 1 million marchers. There were also marches in cities all across the US and abroad. I marched in New York City where there were about 500,000 people. There were also huge crowds in Chicago and Los Angeles. There was actually a march on every single continent in the world, including North America, Europe, South America, Africa, and there was even a march in Antarctica. I hope they wore their big coats for that one.
And that's actually really impressive. But how many of those marches were actually aimed at legitimate issues? Because when people were being interviewed, all it seemed to be is, I don't like Trump. And most of the time, people couldn't even give any actual reason why they didn't like Trump, even though there are plenty to find. I asked one of my friends who went to a march in London, and all I got was this vague, oh, it's about equality, it's against sexism, it's against hate bullshit. And this was one of my problems with the Women's March. It had no coherent goal. Just think of how much good it could have done if it had a precise goal to solve one of the many problems that women actually do face in third world countries like Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or so on. It could have done so much more good, but instead they let it all go to waste because they would rather virtue signal.
Some of you might have gone with your parents. I've actually got some pictures of a few of you with your signs. Thank you so much for sending them in. Have a look.
So I'm going to skip this bit. I'm not a Nision. So as you can probably imagine, my main criticism of the Women's March is that it just didn't have a coherent goal. It didn't achieve anything. However, like I said, there are places that could use feminism perhaps, or egalitarianism, places where women actually are oppressed, and not just women, lots of people are oppressed in certain countries. So here are some charities that I do think could benefit from your time. The first one is the Saudi Association for the Protection and Defense of Women's Rights. This charity, which one of its main catchphrases is girls not brides, tries to protect women from Sharia law, from child marriages, tries to protect them from domestic violence and all sorts of other things. Another good organisation is the United World Schools Organisation, which aims to give free education to both boys and girls. The idea is that it builds schools. With the money it gets, it can provide textbooks. It can also teach one of its students to eventually become a teacher, so they can take over, and eventually then it basically builds a platform for the community to build upon. That is a great cause. You have then got an organisation called Safety, which is based in India. Its purpose is to protect women from domestic abuse, as well as one of its aims to try and change the rape laws, as at the moment there is a loophole and problems with the definition that allow people to get away with it. I'm sure all of you are aware of the argument between Christy Winters and Sargon of Akkad, in terms of Sargon making a sarcastic comment of, oh well, at least we're not hitting women without a reason now in India. Along those lines anyway. This organisation actually tries to help women in those situations rather than what Christy Winters does by just virtue signalling. I'll send the links to the website over to Skeptic Llama so he can put them in the description for you. And the Skeptic Fox, please, if you've got time, do check those charities out. They're all for a good cause. And hopefully I'll see you on my channel.